Hey guys, welcome back and thanks for tuning in to this review of the SOG Powerplay, what I would define as a pretty full-featured EDC or everyday carry multi-tool. We're going to talk all about its features. We're going to talk about some of the options you can buy it in, that sheath, bit kit, other sheath over here, and some of its ups and downs, pros and cons. We'll compare it against at least one other big player in the EDC, full-featured EDC multi-tool realm. In addition to that, we'll just kind of talk about my feelings on it, how good of a tool I think it is. So before I do that, we'll preface this by saying a lot of you guys have been waiting for this review for quite a while, so I apologize it's taken me so long. I have folks that keep rolling in and saying, when is the Powerplay review coming? You keep saying that it's going to come. When's it coming? Thanks for your patience. Here it finally is. And a lot of you guys have been asking for it ever since you saw my SOG Reactor review, which again, I referenced the Powerplay briefly in the SOG Reactor review, talking about some of the ways that I like the SOG Reactor, but also some of the kind of fairly big flaws that I found that it had. Also, what I think is a really brilliant design, but slightly unfinished, which is this feature right here where you can add this bit to this spot right here that turns into a bit driver when you close it. That right there is one of the coolest things, coolest ideas I've ever heard of. And all that really needed, in my opinion, to be complete and actually be totally functional was to have some kind of a latch somewhere to keep that closed, because you have to squeeze it really hard in order to get any sort of torque on that. Otherwise, it just slips and wants to fall out and all that stuff. So, does the Powerplay have that same issue? Well, we'll talk about that during the course of the review as I show you some insert footage of it in use. But let's cover some of the specs, some of the tools, some of the features, etc., etc. Before I do that, I guess we'll cover this other stuff real quickly, then we can get it off the stage. This is the sort of nylon sheath that it comes with, not a nylon fabric sheath, but sort of a plastic nylon sheath, hard nylon sheath. That is very nice, and you can wear that on your belt, obviously. Little belt clip on it right there. And it's got a nice little rubber clasp as well. So you can slip it in just like this. Fits in completely and very, very securely. Then that little rubber clasp keeps it from falling out again. You push on that and you can see that it's not going anywhere. So great sheath right there for sort of your daily carry, handyman, etc., etc. And of course, if you can get that into the open configuration just by flipping it like that, and you have this in your belt like that, you want to just store it this way, just drop it in. Holds it that way pretty well. It's not secure if you're holding it that way, but this is the kind of thing you would do, to stow it real quick while you got two hands on, I don't know, some wiring or something else that you're working on. You stow the tool real quick, then you can reach for it again, and it's all at the ready again. So, great little plastic hard nylon sheath. I like that a lot. And also the soft fabric nylon sheath, as you can see there, with a nice Velcro closure. And how does it fit in there? We'll look at that real quick. Fits into it very nicely as well, with that great little nylon clasp, or that, I should say, Velcro clasp on it. And the bit kit, the bit driver kit. Let me show you that too. So you can see all the different bits that come with it. Looks like some Torx drivers on the end there, which are going to help you adjust some of your knives, which is great. And then various flat heads, Phillips heads. And then also this, what looks like a 1/4 inch, yeah, that's a 1/4 inch socket driver. So you would need to have some kind of a 1/4 inch socket in order to use this, but that will accept all of these bits. Now, the Powerplay does not have that 1/4 inch socket on it anywhere. I looked for it everywhere. There's no 1/4 inch socket of any sort. But what I discovered is that there are several other SOG multi-tools that do have 1/4 inch drivers on them, or 1/4 inch socket, male sockets on them, so you can pop that. Basically the deal is you can buy this separately and it can come with any number of different SOG tools. So they basically just said, here's our basic bit kit, and we're including it with this, but this one piece in particular can't really work with the Powerplay. Something to keep in mind, but it's definitely a good kit in general and works well with lots of different SOG multi-tools. One last thing to say about the soft nylon pouch is that it is MOLLE compatible, so that you can put that on some nylon webbing, either a vest, a bag, for instance on my EDC bag, which is my Maxpedition Wolf Spur, that fits onto that lattice webbing very nicely and turns into not just an EDC multi-tool, but something you got on the outside of your pack for very quick access. I like that a lot. One of the great things about SOG multi-tools in general is this little multiplying gear thing right here. And they do have a name for that. They call it their compound leverage gears. So it's different, obviously, from what you would get on a standard multi-tool, where this stays in line with that, and the further this goes open, that's how that stays open, is in a straight line like that, because it's just hinged in one piece, or not exactly one piece, but you get what I'm saying. This is very different in that it has this compound leverage. The huge advantage to that is that as I'm squeezing down here and I want to crimp something or I want to grab something, I'm actually getting far more leverage and a much tighter grip on it than I would get if it was a simple pivot there that it was exerting that force on. How are the pliers? They're great. There's nothing wrong with them at all. Good, adequate, fine tip up there, good teeth on it, good cutter on it. Everything seems to be just great. So pliers are fantastic. Let's move to the bit driver, which is the exact same one as we see, or roughly the same one as we see on this guy right here on the reactor. Then you see how it works with the standard bits. So just pull one of these out, and it sits in there very securely, very nice and tight. And how does that work, by the way? Does it perform well in doing some driving? Again, I had that issue with the reactor. Does the Powerplay have the same issue, in which you need to exert lots and lots of force on this in order to get it to turn? Yes and no. Okay, it's a lot more of a beefy plier, so you don't have to exert as much force. Remember, the reactor is very small in comparison, very light in comparison, a lot less metal there. So you've got to exert a lot of force because it wants to push those out, and it's very easy to push those out as you're trying to turn it. So there's a bit more mass there, a lot easier to hold on to it. There's less force that you need to exert in order to get all the torque you need to do the driving you need to do. But one cool thing I discovered is, as I was putting together a little cabinet for home, one of the cool things you can do once you kind of get that screw started and get some work done with those screws, you can actually kind of release a little bit, and that will sort of slip across it like that, and then you can keep turning. And then release, it'll slip across it, keep turning. And it works in a very cool kind of ratcheting socket wrench kind of way. I don't know if they intended it to be used that way, but maybe it's just an accident, but pretty cool accident in my opinion. In short, I don't think that the Powerplay has the same downside as the reactor. I think it actually is better implemented and cooler in overall. And that's where we're going to stop on that bit. Let's go to some of the other tools. We've got a knife on here. The knife is made of, I had to look this up on SOG's website, 5CR 15 MOV. Not super familiar with that composition in particular. My guess is it's going to be very comparable to like your 420 HCs, probably a step below your AUS 8, don't know for sure. I think it's adequate for what it is. It's not going to be great or fantastic for edge retention. It's just going to be okay. We've also got a serrated blade on there. My guess is that's made of the same material. And then as we get to some of the other tools, also there on the outside, we see a driver slash bottle opener. And then we have another driver right here, our little Phillips head. All right, so if you don't have the bit kit, you can get lots of good work done without it. Then lastly, we have here the can opener, which I did test out. Works fine, totally fine. There's nothing wrong with it. It works as well as any other can opener of this type of design has worked before. And a little bit driver, not a bit driver, but a little flathead on the end of that as well. So good complement of tools on the outside, and I would say those are the right tools to put on the outside as well. And how does all the lockup work? Well, I kind of demonstrated it there for you, but I didn't really talk about it. You press these little knobs up, like so, and that releases the lock. Now, that's not too hard for me to do, but I would say that for smaller hands, for weaker hands, that is a difficult lock to disengage. It's just this small little knob. It kind of presses back on your thumb as you're pressing into it. So you you could find yourself, depending on what your hand strength is like, needing to pull up on both of them in order to disengage. Once again, for me, it's no big deal. For my son, for instance, he actually carried this on a Cub Scout day camp, and once he got that knife out and locked, he could not get it back in because his hands just aren't big enough and strong enough to actuate those locks. Something to keep in mind there. Then just kind of a quick overview at the outside of the tool. You see that there are rulers built into it, inch and centimeters, so that's very handy, obviously. As we come to the inside, we go to this side for the inside tools. What we've got is a file, which looks fantastic, looks as good as any file I've ever seen. Got teeth there on the bottom as well for grinding away at whatever material you need to grind away at. Then as we go further in, we've got a saw there. We tested the saw out. I find the saw to be adequate. It performed fine. I didn't really see it failing in any way. So we're going to go ahead and give the saw a win as well. And then let's move on to the rest of those inside tools. We've got a larger flathead there, a very small eyeglass flathead. And yes, that fits on the eyeglass screws on my particular glasses. So totally good eyeglass screw there. And then what we have is, kind of a leather drill or a punch, whatever you want to name that. And that's our complement of tools on the inside. Pretty good selection, and I find them to be pretty well put together and well done. I guess we could do one last thing, get the weight here for you, might as well. So get out the little scale here. And if we're just doing the tool naked, that comes in at 8 ounces. And I guess what we didn't do, we totally forgot about this, but I said I was going to compare it to something else, so let's compare it to something else. That's the SOG Powerplay at 8 ounces. There's the Leatherman Wave at 8.5 ounces. Okay, cool. And going through the complement of tools real quick and just kind of looking at them real quick, because this is I think the big one out there, guys, that the Powerplay competes against. How do I think they compare? Well, the Powerplay definitely wins with that compound leverage gear set on it, and the advantages that are associated with that. One of the disadvantages perhaps is that you've got to open these handles wide open in order to get a grip on whatever it is, whereas with the Leatherman, not quite as wide, but you don't have that compound leverage. Okay, that's something to point out, something to realize. This is the black oxide version of the Wave. There's the standard stainless version as well out there. And what we have as far as complement of tools, looks like we've got flathead. I think we've got we've got a little eyeglass screwdriver in there. We've got scissors. Oh, sorry, SOG. Too bad you don't have scissors. Scissors are useful. I like scissors. Another bit driver right there. Pretty useful. That's your flat and Phillips on there. Your can opener, also going to do bottles on that, no problem. And that is mainly the complement of tools that at least are on the insides of the handles. On the outside of the tools, the outside accessible tools, the blade, which is 420HC, the serrated blade, which will also be that as well. We've got the file here, which has got that very coarse file on that side, and a diamond file. Diamond file is better, in my opinion. I definitely like having a diamond file because you can actually sharpen knives with that if you need to. But then it's got those teeth on this end as well. Lastly, the saw. And I found all the Leatherman saws to be great. They are thin, they are counterground. This one is counterground as well. By that I mean we have a spine right here that is much thinner than the teeth surface there, which means that your friction becomes reduced as you pass further and further through your material. Very important. And so is one better than the other? It's going to be up to you to decide, really. I think they're both pretty excellent. The Powerplay with that new feature here where you can insert the bits there, golly, I mean, that opens up, it frees something up down here, so that you don't have to have it there or here. And it gives you the ability to have more tools in general on your multi-tool. As I said before, though, it's definitely a matter of preference. Which one do you like? Which one looks better to you? Which one's going to get the job done with its complement of features? That's really your choice, I suppose. But in the end, I think that the SOG Powerplay definitely is a huge player in regards to an EDC, full-featured EDC multi-tool. The price on it, the standard version with this pouch on it, the hard nylon pouch, about $60. If you want to instead get the one with the fabric nylon pouch and bit driver kit, then you're paying about 70 bucks. And that's basically it, guys. That's my review of the SOG Powerplay. Thanks to all you guys who really wanted to see this, who have been patient enough and have been sticking around to watch it. Please do stay subscribed. Lots more good stuff coming up, of course. I'm Late Boy Scout. We'll see you guys later.
You had something super simple like that incorporated into the reactor somehow. Win! 100% win! I would love it if they could incorporate that. Once again, that would have to be a Rev 2, some re-engineering of the tool, but I'd love to see that done.